Her and her husband started this foundation in 2014. Unfortunately, we lost Pat, her husband, in 2024. So here we have Leslie Sullivan say a few words.
Everybody having a good time? All right, very good. Thank you so much to the O'Briens and the Donahoes for this. This is wonderful. Just quickly, I want to say we're so excited to officially welcome Jenn O'Brien as our new Development Director of the Hart Brothers Foundation. Jenn has been a longtime supporter of Hart Brothers, a caregiver, and proud Quincy native. She brings heart, experience, and deep passion to our mission, and we are thrilled to have her getting boots on the ground as we continue to grow. Please join us in giving Jenn a huge welcome. We can't wait to we'll look through what comes forward.
All right, now I have a very special guest, Danny's dad, Bernie Donahoe, wants to say a few words.
Good afternoon, and thank you all for being here today to support the Hart Brothers Foundation, which was so important to my son, Danny Donahoe. My name is Bernie, and on behalf of my wife, Kathleen, my son, Darren, my grandson, Mickey, and his mother, Lindsay, we would especially thank Jenn and Mike O'Brien and the Hart Brothers for dedicating this event in memory of Danny. For those of you who may not know, Danny died March 24th, 2025. Earlier you saw a wonderful presentation showing some of the great things the Hart Brothers Foundation has done. And shortly, a beautiful lady named Jeanette Cook will tell you a little bit about Danny. I think her speech is for about 3 minutes, I'm sorry. I am here today hoping to offer you a small perspective from a transplant family as to why the Hart Brothers Foundation was so important to us and to Danny. From the age of 7, Danny always wanted to be a Boston firefighter and follow in the footsteps of his grandfather, as did several other members of the family, including his uncle and his cousin. From a young age, Danny was a team player, always looking out for the other members of his team. Sorry about that. This was his mantra, and it became more and more important to him as he grew older. Ended up playing football at the Blue Hill Regional High School, where he made many lifelong friends, many of whom are here today. He then went into the Navy and was assigned to the aircraft carrier John C. Stennis. This is where his teamwork was critical because even the smallest mistakes could be deadly. He worked hard, became a good leader, and always had the backs of his fellow team members. Even before he was promoted to petty officer, he was designated as the lead petty officer for the crew whose job it was to catch the jets when they landed. To paraphrase Tom Clancy in one of his books, he stated that a jet pilot spends 6 to 8 years in school and training, costing the Navy $400,000 to $500,000 before he is even allowed to attempt his first landing on an aircraft carrier. The pilot then approaches what looks like a postage stamp in the rolling waters of the middle of the ocean. He then attempts to take his $37 million jet and land it on an $8 billion aircraft carrier. And 19-year-old Danny Donahoe and his crew were responsible for catching him by his bouncing tail hook. Those of us that knew and loved Danny realized Danny couldn't take a test for beans. But he worked hard, and he was a good leader, and he made petty officer second class in only 3 years. The Navy tried very hard to keep him, including him awarding him 2 NEAM service medals, Navy and Marine service medals. But Danny was heading back to Boston to join another team in his dream job. His first assignment was to ladder 15 on Boylston Street. He loved the job, but he loved the guys even more. He was a hard worker, became a good leader, and again, always had the backs of his brother firefighters. I told you all this to kind of frame the perspective. Since Danny was 7, he worked hard to reach his dreams, and he did. Last June at the Firefighters Memorial Mass, the president of the International Association of Firefighters, Edzo Kelly, himself a Boston firefighter, described Danny as being the most popular guy in the Boston Fire Department. He then went on to say that Danny was the guy that you wanted to have with you when you were having a good time at Fenway Park. But more importantly, you wanted him beside you if you were at a fire in the basement of a brownstone in the Back Bay in the middle of the night, because you knew he had your back. Got to come up with a system. On May 14th, 2023, Danny was at the top of his game. He had his dream job. He was in the best physical shape of his life. He owned a nice home. He had a beautiful girlfriend, Tracy, and of course there was his son, Mickey, the most important person in his world. Then the next day, on May 15, 2023, it all came tumbling down. While working at his new firehouse in South Boston, he had a heart attack. He was sent to Tufts Medical, where they saved his life. During his stay at Tufts, the staff was great. He loved all the nurses, and you can see by the pictures in the video, they loved him back. The firefighters were there all the time visiting and supporting him, as were his many lifetime friends. Then we found out he needed a transplant. That was something none of us expected. Not only did we not know anyone who had had a transplant, we did not know anyone who knew anyone that had a transplant. The shock was enormous. He could no longer be the firefighter that he was. Could they even find a heart for him? What would he do with the rest of his life? All this mental stuff while still dealing with all the physical stuff. Then came brothers. The Hart brothers, if that didn't come through. I think it was Jay and Tommy that first visited. They had Danny laughing for about 2 hours. What a comedy team they were. They were the best medicine he could get. He now could see a future. Because these guys had done it, he knew he could do it. He knew that they and the Hart brothers would have his back. They helped Danny all through the process. They were there when he had the transplant on June 5th, which happened to be the birthday of one of the nurses who so sweetly said afterwards was the best present she got on her birthday. And the Hart brothers continued to visit him until he left on June 16th. 30 days in and out, May 15 to June 16. Most people wait 3 months, 6 months, a year. Some never even get a heart attack, get a heart transplant. Danny broke all the records. The Hart brothers and a new member named Mike O'Brien enlisted Danny into the program to go visit patients that were going through the scary procedures he went through. It helped them a lot, and it helped him even more. The Donahoe family feels very fortunate to have had the Hart Brothers Association having our back and Danny's back. After 23 months, Danny had another heart attack on March 24th, 2025. He died instantly. He was a great guy, and we all still love him, and we all still miss him every single day. Thank you for listening, and thank you for supporting the Hart Brothers Foundation and for remembering Danny.
I'd like to introduce Jeanette Cook. She's going to be giving us a little bird's eye view into Danny's life.
Thank you, Mike. My name is Jeanette Cook, and I am so honored to be at this event for an organization that does indescribable good, breathing life back into heart patients and their families. I was asked to come up and give a glimpse of who Danny was as a person, so buckle up. A long time ago, I made the mistake of introducing Danny to someone as my husband's best friend. And he looked truly hurt. And he said, JC, I don't know what your criteria is for best friends, but please let me know so I can stop slacking. He really was the best friend I've ever known. But I can rattle off 15 other people who could come be up here instead of me. People who could stand here and say that he was their best friend too, and they would all be right. Because he wasn't just the friend you call for a ride to the airport. He was the guy who, at a moment's notice, jumps in a car with you to drive down to Tennessee when your sister is hurt. He didn't just buy a teddy bear for his goddaughter when she was born. He commissioned all the neighbors to help him hang pink balloons and streamers and signs up and down the whole street to welcome her home. And he didn't just donate to charities. When he heard about a veteran living in her car with her kids, he found out all their Christmas wish lists, rallied friends to help him fulfill them, and after dropping it all off, stayed at their new apartment to help them put their beds together. It's hard to ignore the poetic beauty of it all when you think about the timeline of Danny's life, how the major themes in his life to get on the Boston Fire Department, his love for being a firefighter, his love for his son, his heart attack, how it all keeps revolving around these two same words, two words that define exactly who he was, fire and heart. Everything he did was with enthusiasm and passion and pure, loud love, fire and heart. Although I know how proud Bernie is of his son, I'm sure even he is underselling what that fire and heart must have looked like on an aircraft or in a burning building. And I can't speak to what an honor and inspiration it must have been to work alongside him in those arenas, but I do still laugh when I think about the fire and heart that he brought to every tiny thing in life. He set wedding reception dance floors ablaze with grandmothers all across America. I can't even tell you the amount of ordinary little things that Danny insisted we get excited about. America's Got Talent Golden Buzzer performances, red pepper jelly and goat cheese on crackers, that new violinist, Lindsey Sterling. He would send you links of songs, or even worse, he would just stand there and hold his phone up to your face and hold you hostage, making you listen to the whole thing that moved him. And at the end, you would just say, wow. And he, with a wide-eyed face, would go, right? I remember the spring after Mickey was born, he and Lindsay would take the stroller for walks in the evenings, and he would rave about it like he just stumbled upon this amazing new thing. JC, you ever go for a walk? He just loved discovering new things to love and sharing them with the people that he loved. I think we find sometimes that when someone passes, our memories repaint the picture as braver, funnier, kinder than they truly were in life. And we tend to forget about their imperfections or shortcomings. But I am certain when I say that the legend that comes to mind when I think about Danny is not inflated by time or grief. The picture of the hilarious, generous, charming pillar of strength and loyalty that is etched in our hearts is perfectly accurate. He really was that guy. Danny was the guy who would be there for you and stay there with you no matter what, on your best days and your worst. He really lit up a room, but sometimes he'd find us in our darkest hours, and even he couldn't light it up. So he would just stay. He'd show up with a 30-pack and sit there and face the darkness with you. He evolved with every obstacle or tragedy he faced to become the guy who could save the next person from it. And whether that meant becoming the best firefighter or gaining the wisdom to give the best advice on love or loss. I have 19 more pages. I said in Danny's eulogy that he loved his family and friends so fiercely that he wore through 2 whole hearts in half a lifetime. But I know there isn't anything on this earth that he loved more than his son Mickey. Danny did incredible things in his life, but from the moment Mickey was born, nothing else would matter as much as his son. Danny's death has taught us all so much, but his life taught us more. I remember exactly 11 years ago this weekend, in 2015, my husband Dan and I had been living in Danny's 2-family house above him and Lindsay. I was pregnant with our 3rd baby, Danny's goddaughter, Catherine, and Lindsay and Danny had just brought baby Mickey home from the hospital during the first of many snowstorms that record-breaking winter. And if you remember, the snow that winter was overwhelming. It seemed like every other night the Weather Channel was forecasting another blizzard. And with me in my 3rd trimester and Lindsay with a newborn, we weren't much help. So between their 24-hour shifts at the firehouses, Danny and Dan would come home and tackle the snow. And for a second, they would look miserable at the thought of it. But then they would start joking around, and they would become madmen, and they would boot up and suit up and head out. "Taking it down to the pavement," they would say. And they would clink their shovels together and just freeze like an 80s action movie. Those lunatics wouldn't just make a shovel-wide path in the walls of snow. They would shovel the entire sidewalk until they saw grass on one side and curb on the other, straight to the pavement. And then they'd do the same at the neighbors' houses up and down the street. And Lindsay and I would come to the door with announcements of warm dinners we'd made for them, or even just bluntly tell them, "Come inside." There'd be 4 more inches of snow by the morning, so it was pointless to put in any work now. But they would shovel anyway, chopping through ice, through the day or into the night, driveways, sidewalks, parking spots, down to the pavement. And when I think about him digging until his shovel was practically sparking against the pavement, I think it's just the perfect metaphor for who he was when life got tough. Because it never mattered how tired he was. It never mattered if another storm was on its way. It didn't matter if this was just the beginning of a long, dark winter. If there was anything within his control that could be done to help someone or fix something, with fire and heart, he would grab a shovel and grab a buddy and start digging. He made the right thing to do look like the cool thing to do, and he made people want to join him. And he never seemed fazed by how hard it was, because he was always so wrapped up in how worth it was. And that's why the Hart brothers had such a profound impact on him, because you guys showed up for him in the same way that he showed up for everyone else in his life. You didn't just give him humor and hope. You gave him promises and proof that things would get better. And they did. And we saved every moment of heart and fire that he still had left to share with us. And we thank you for everything you did to lift him up and lighten him up, to help him not waste a single moment of his 23-month bonus round. My greatest wish for everyone in this room is that you would all have a best friend like Danny. Or if you don't have one, be one. So Hart Brothers, it is truly an honor to know you because you remind us of him. Thank you.
We have a very special guest. Can Mickey Donahoe please come up?
Hey, buddy, we're putting you on the spot right now. So, a little birdie told us that you like the New England Revolution? Yeah? All right, so we called in the big guns, and we want to give you, it's 4 corner tickets for a New England Revolution game in the 2026 regular season with 4 pregame passes to go on the field and see the players and hopefully get some autographs and wish them good luck. All right? Yeah, you have to take your grandfather. All right, honey?
That ends our speaking portion.